All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the CONDG presentation for this month. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Assuming you all came through a meetup, we already have the events for the following couple months. So I hope that you will see you in the upcoming presentations. We have our YouTube channel, so this presentation today is going to be posted up there, and as well as any other presentations from the past couple of years, I believe. Channel now has 200 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed, help us with that too. And as Alan already mentioned, please make sure that since we're doing the live stream, make sure that if you're using the internet, you're not downloading a movie or doing anything heavy, please. That's the only thing we ask. Thank you to our sponsors. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Thank you to Improving for this wonderful space to meet. And we also thank JetGreens for our raffle sponsor. So we're going to be giving away a license at the end of the presentation. So if you don't have one yet, stay till the end. And then there's other user groups in the area. So the Columbus JS group, they meet every first Wednesday of the month right here, 6:30 p.m. We also have the CBuzz Data user group, or also known as the Central Ohio Microsoft Data Platform user group. Every second Thursday of the month, 6 p.m. at IGS Energy, and also online. And then today we have Mel Grubb with Coding with Others from a Distance. Next month we have lightning talks. So if you are thinking about speaking, you don't have a lot of experience, lightning talk is usually a perfect format if you're just getting started with that. If you are interested, or if you know someone that might be interested, let Alan, Matt, or myself know, and we will get them on the schedule. We don't have a presenter for August 24th yet, so if, again, you are interested in speaking, please reach out to the organizers. And then, apart from sharing knowledge and the networking, we also like to help people out if you're looking for work or you are hiring. Stay after the presentation and network. Anyone looking for a job? Anyone hiring? There you go. So those are the people that you want to talk to at the end of the presentation. And we could always use some help. Right now with Alan, Matt, and myself, but we could always use help with getting presenters, especially, and then just running the presentation. So if you are interested in doing that, reach out to one of us. And that's it. I will turn it over to Mel. Thank you.
Might be able to type standing. We'll find out. Give this a second to catch on. The monitors. Yeah, there we go. Hey, there we go. Close that down. Okay. So, hi everybody, I'm Mel. This is a somewhat shortened version of a course that I did for Pluralsight a while back. Sorry about the URL, that's not up to me. But if you just look up Mel Grubb on Pluralsight, you'll find it along with some other courses that I've done. If you have access to Pluralsight, you can watch through this whole thing at a more relaxed pace when you get the chance, and it's got all kinds of better slides and animations and goes into more detail than I'll be covering tonight, but I'll try and hit all the high points. So in one way or another, we've always worked remotely as an industry. We've leveraged offshore teams pretty much forever as kind of third shift, maybe to cut costs or simply to increase the number of working hours in the day. I know I've worked at a few places where, yeah, there was a third shift somewhere else in the world, and we'd hand things off to them and come back in the morning. The elves have fixed your code. It was great. We consume or provide technical support either as a client or to our clients. Sometimes we're sending code samples or recordings to somebody off-site, say, why doesn't this work? Or they're asking us the same. And then we've always had that classic example of working from the plane that we use as an example when we're learning about source control systems. It's that idea that we have some brilliant insight while we're traveling to our vacation, and we just have to work on it immediately, and that's why Git is better than SourceSafe. I guess we haven't had that conversation in a while, though. SourceSafe is dead. And our traditional tooling for that, up until the last few years, we just made do with what we had, and we talk things out in online meetings using Zoom or Slack or Teams or whatever you're into, which is fine for an eyes-forward presentation, kind of like this, I talk, you listen. But it's not really that great for collaboration. For one thing, we were talking about this earlier, there's the whole Bluetooth delay. I don't know why all of my coworkers have Bluetooth headphones, but it makes the delay between us so much worse. Yetis don't cost that much. Get a USB mic. It's awesome. You could also share the screen to show or discuss a problem with somebody who's not near you. But you get a lot of those problems of someone saying, hey, wait, can you scroll back up? Go to that thing. Or they're trying to help you out. Like, no, not that one. The other overload, the one that takes a stream and, just give me the screen, right? Because you're having trouble collaborating effectively. Or I'll just paste you the line. Just put this in there. So maybe you have used some online collaborative tools like Figma or InVision or Lucidchart. They're designed for collaboration and sharing, not necessarily for simultaneous editing. Some of them are better at it than others, but most of them are more like, I work a little, you work a little, eventually consistent. But largely, we always still worked in person up until 2020 happened. In March of 2020, my company decided to conduct an experiment because it was starting to look like things were going down. And we wanted to see if we could handle a lockdown, if one were to happen. And half the company was going to work from home on Friday, and then the other half was going to work from home on Monday, and we'd see how that went. And we never made it to Monday because over the weekend, Columbus locked down. And most of us never went back except to grab some things from our desks. Unfortunately, that didn't include a lot of perishable things in the fridge and sauce packets in people's drawers, and that was fun, finding where the smell was coming from for those of us who were still going to the office. But once we'd proven that we could work remotely, that's just what we do now. I think for a lot of us, remote is just the new normal. The company that I'm at now, we have staff all the way from California to New York. The guy that I work with the most, he's in California. So yeah, there's 3 hours in the morning where he's not there for me to work with, and he's got 3 hours without me in the evening, so that works out nicely. But HR just doesn't care where you live anymore, at least at my company. We're just assuming everybody's everywhere. Hire somebody in England, although that'd probably be hard to have meetings with. But we all work from our home offices now. So I should go one more forward. I'm one of two people at my company that actually goes to the office fairly often because I like the peace and quiet and the lack of interruptions and the birds that land in the tree outside my window on the third floor. That's nice. But otherwise, I'm either at home in my basement or if the weather's really nice, I'm out in the yard. So hooray for mesh Wi-Fis. But who remembers collaborating with humans? Yeah. So it's introduced some real problems, though, working remotely. How do we collaborate when we can't just walk up to a whiteboard and hash a problem out together? Where's the Figma for code? And I remember as a junior developer, someone telling me about this mythical, magical source control system that Microsoft had, where multiple people could be working on the same document at the same time and see each other's changes and in real time, and it was great. And there was no checking out or checking in, so somebody could get what your changes were. but they wouldn't sell it because it would make all the competition too powerful. This is probably just a myth or a legend until now, and what we have now is Visual Studio Live Share, which is effectively the same thing except that it's not source control, which causes some confusion. It's something different. So what is it? Well, it's editing and debugging together live. It's an extension for Visual Studio. It was first introduced in Visual Studio 2017, but it's been included by default since 2019. It's not perfect, and it's still under active development. For instance, the transition to 64-bit Visual Studio 2022 really messed it up for a little while. It caused a lot of issues, but the core functionality is solid. And I'll warn you that since it is under active development, not everything works 100% of the time. They do push out updates to it. I know of one thing that running through this presentation last night did not work the way that it used to last time I looked. There also was another update afterwards, so maybe they fixed it. We'll find out when we get there. The basic code experience, editing experience is good. Some elements, like I say, may not work during this demo. I did run through it though last night, and I think we're pretty solid. I keep the extensions updated as much as possible. It gets better all the time. I'll do my best. So a live share session consists of 2 or more participants. You got the host who starts the session. He owns the documents being edited. They're the only ones that count are the ones on the host's machine. They can invite collaborators to join them in that session, but what everybody's really editing is the host's copy of things. The collaborators, they can join a host session and they're editing, as I say, the host's documents directly with the right permissions. There's some control over that. There are read-only sessions, and there are settings that you can change to alter what collaborators can and can't do. We'll get into those a little bit later, but first let's just see what a live share session looks like. Screen's over. No, there you go. So this is just a straight out-of-the-box Razor Pages demo, like no changes to it at all, but it's all we really need to show this off. Move this over a little bit. Okay, so the easiest way to start a live share session is from this button that you may have seen up here and wondered what it was. You can also get to that from the file menu. We'll see that in a little bit. And then if I start a session, it's going to think about that for a little bit, and we get this header bar here that tells us some things. If I want to learn more about it, I can click this. That's just going to take you to a web page. We won't go there now. It has copied a link for me to give the collaborators. If I lost track of it, I copy something else into the clipboard, I can come back here and get it. I can also say, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to make this one a full sharing session. I want to make it read-only, and I could change this session into read-only. We also have this live share chat window over here where if we can talk to other people that we're working on stuff with. And now this sharing button has turned into a drop-down, and we have access to a few different things. Like if I accidentally close the window, I can get back to the live share window. I can get a little more control over the session here. I can end the session. We'll get to shared servers and terminals in a while. I can copy that link from here too, so I don't need this header anymore. I can make that go away, get a little more screen back. And then the 2 windows, the chat and the live share window, if I close them for some reason. There's multiple different ways that you can then join. So right now I've got that link in my clipboard. So you could join from your own copy of Visual Studio, or you could go to VS Code, which is what I'm going to do now. So we have a VS Code open here. Let me advance this, VS Code. So you have to install a plugin for VS Code first. I've already put it on here because I didn't know what the internet would be like, but we have internet, so I'll go look for it. So there's this live share extension here. Why does it say it's not there? Okay, disable, good. So live share, that's the thing you would need to install in order to get this working in VS Code. There's also this audio call thing. You'll notice that's deprecated. They eventually decided that what the world really didn't need was yet another voice over IP solution. That what everybody was really doing was just opening Teams or Zoom or Slack to talk to each other and then using this. So they've called off development on that. It's dead but not totally gone. You can still get to it for the moment, but at some point I expect that'll disappear entirely. There's a plugin here, LiveShare Whiteboard. We'll talk about that a little more later. This thing has not been updated in 3 years. I'm calling it dead. But the thumbnails here will show you what it does. I could draw on one side and somebody could see it on the other, but it's really just paint. It's not like a Visio or anything. It's not intelligent. Well, for those who remember Visio. Let's close that. Back out here. So I have the LiveShare extension installed, and now I have this icon over here on the left. I could start my own session, or I could join one. So if I click that, it recognizes that what's in my clipboard right now, I would normally have sent this to somebody, but it says, oh look, there's a LiveShare link in your clipboard, I'll just paste it in here. And when I join that, it's going to try to join, and I'm going to need to hop back over to VS Code. You can see that another person has joined the session. I guess these are leftover messages from before. And what we're seeing now, it might have enough screen here to work with. Let me see if I can just stick these to opposite sides here. Wow. Close all of that. Close that. What the collaborator here is looking at is the same code as what the host is sharing. And that goes all the way to, like, if I highlight a line over here in Visual Studio, you can see it gets highlighted over there on the right. The collaborator can see the breakpoint. They can see everything I'm doing, right? There would have been a demo here about the audio call, but that's dead. So yeah, that was already filled in. We're going to join, and yeah, well, I'll show you a couple of the other ways that you can join this, but you can see these two are connected. So next we'll talk about the web browser link. You can join from a temporary web-hosted copy of VS Code. If you guys have ever used this, I think you can get to this directly on GitHub things too, right? There's I forget what they call it, code spaces, or they were calling it code spaces. But let's open up got an anonymous browser here, and if I paste that same link in here, we'll get this hosted version. I'm going to give this a second because it's going to pop something up here. Well, usually it does. Maybe because I already did this today. You'll get a pop-up sometimes that asks, do you want to open Visual Studio, VS Code, or continue in this web-hosted version of VS Code? It looks like it remembered my choice from last time. Oh no. Let me refresh this so I can get that prompt again. Do I want to actually sign in so I have an identity, or continue as anonymous? So we'll just continue as anonymous for now because I want to show you something else. And you can give yourself a name to distinguish you from everybody else. Go back over here to Visual Studio. Give this a second to catch up. It should have been asked. Yeah, there we go. It's just too narrow. It says, hey, this guest user, anonymous and read-only, has requested to join your session. If it wasn't 1080p, you could read that. So I'll go ahead and let them in. And if I go back to my browser now, this is going to pop up looking just like regular VS Code. And I can see the solution, and I can get to the different files that are in here. You know, I can edit a README, I can look at program. And if I go to Visual Studio again, you know, and highlight some line, I may have to staple this to the side again. Well, of course it's going to act up. I warned you. Yeah, it's not highlighting live. Okay, so could be a connection thing or just the demo god's not liking me, but you get the idea. So if you had this guy open and you hit F11, like, it would be hard to tell that this isn't just a normal VS Code instance. It just looks like the real thing. So that's pretty handy. I'm going to exit out of that window because I don't need all of these copies running at once. And I'm going to jump down here to a VM that has a completely separate Visual Studio instance. So most of the time you'd be working with, let me advance this. Yeah, so now we're going to talk about Visual Studio. So go to the VM, and the easiest way to join, again, is from the file, because this guy's not a drop-down right now. I think it should be a drop-down all the time, so I could join from there, but under the file menu, we've got a join live share session. And now I need to pop this down so I can type from the clipboard to put the link in there, and then we'll full screen this again. So there, I've pasted in the link that I presumably would have sent a coworker, and they can join. So same sort of experience, except they're in a full Visual Studio. They've got the same live chat window, and if I go to my Visual Studio, which is the dark one, we'll go to live share chat. I could say hello to everybody. Then I'll pop over to where'd my VS Code go. There you go. So in that VS Code instance, the real one, not the web one, but it's doing the same thing. If I go into the live share tab here, let's see, session chat, and there's me saying hello. And I could say, hi, back to the window that's in Visual Studio, and if I pop down to that VM, the whole conversation is there too. So I've got 3 people connected here. Everybody's said hello. We'll talk about the chat window. Yeah, we talk to each other. And a lot of times when we're using this, we're not really using the text chat either. It's kind of like if you're on a Slack or Teams chat with somebody, and at some point you just go, let's just start a voice chat, like start a huddle in Slack or whatever. You pretty much do the same thing. You could type some stuff out here, but what I found is by the time me working with someone else have decided what we really need is a chat window, we're probably already in a voice chat by that point anyway, because it wasn't something that we could just Slack back and forth to each other. But yeah, this is where they used to have that voice extension to it, and it worked, and we would have used that. But like I say, usually you're already talking to somebody by that point anyway. So we're going to go ahead and start doing some pairing. So the most obvious use for an editor like this is for pair programming. Who all has done pair programming? Yeah, everybody. So yeah, normally it's just 2 people sitting at a desk with 1 computer. We did have one setup where we've done 2 monitors and 2 mice and 2 keyboards on the same computer facing opposite. It's a cool experiment. But most times what you've got is 2 developers trading a keyboard and mouse back and forth, the driver and the navigator. That's your traditional pair programming. Or there's ping pong. Does anybody do ping pong style? Nope. Okay, so ping pong, it's like that, except developer 1's going to write a unit test and then shove the keyboard and the mouse over to the other developer. And now they have to make the test pass. So it's TDD combined with pair programming. So they'll make the test pass, and then they'll write another test and then shove the keyboard and the mouse back over to the first guy. So this works pretty well for that, but it's more of an honor system. You're not supposed to be editing right now. I am, which then leads into strong style, which I've never done. I don't know anyone who has. Strong style is the driver is only allowed to type things at the specific direction of the navigator. So I'm telling you what to type, or if we switch places, you're telling me what to type. And the idea there is that any ideas that are going into the code have definitely passed through 2 people. So it's kind of a live code review. And yeah, somebody's reviewing my ideas, I'm reviewing their ideas. We've definitely both talked about this before something gets typed. And if you're the driver and someone tells you to do something that you don't agree with, you could discuss it, but you can't change what you're typing. You have to either talk them into it and then they tell you go ahead and do it, or maybe you'll change places and tell them to do it. It's kind of up to you, I guess. But let's open up our VS Code, and I'm going to stick this to the left again, and I will put our Visual Studio on the left, VS Code over on the right, collapse these. Get some room to breathe. Close the chat. All right, so if I'm over here in VS Code as the host and I'm typing some stuff, you can see that it's showing up instantly over on the client. And assuming the client isn't in a read-only session, they can make some changes and I'll see it over on the left. So I can't demo this because there's only one of me, but we could also be typing different things at the same time in different parts of the file. So you could imagine, somebody's typing down there, somebody else is typing up here. We'd be seeing both changes in both places. I could demo that. It would take a lot more coordination and another person, though. So basic pair programming, but we don't have to just stop there. We can also debug stuff together, though.
Could the other person also type in a different file?
Yeah, we'll get there. We're going to get to that. So we're going to take the host, and I don't have a start button. I've got to make this bigger so I have a start button. So let's make sure we have a breakpoint in here somewhere, and then I'm going to start this up. Collapse that back to the left. Prompted, do I trust this? Yes. And we've now hit the breakpoint over on the left, and you can see it's been hit over on the right too. If we look at our VM, same thing going on there. We're debugging this live. And just like any other debugging session, if I clicked the wrong thing. If I hit F10, I ran it out, didn't I? Here, let me restart that. So we can hit our breakpoint again. I accidentally ran it out. Do our breakpoint again. Got to the deep breakpoint faster the last time, didn't it? Hey, what's the big deal? There we go. All right, so we're at the breakpoint over here on the left, and I could, hit F10 to go down a line. But the cool thing is the collaborators can do that too, although I don't know, does F10 work? Yeah, it does in VS Code. So my collaborator can be stepping things forward too. This down. And then over here in the VM, they can be doing the same thing. They can F10 and F11, and we can all collaborate on the stuff together. But also, if I want to look at your normal debugging experience where I'm going to hover over something, look at app, and I could look into some of the members of that. It doesn't work 100% in VS Code, but you kind of have that same idea. I'll just make this bigger. Where over here on the left, I've got the locals, and maybe I want to look at app and see what's in it. I believe, yeah, it doesn't want to show me configuration, but it might show me the builder, and I could look at the properties. So somebody could be helping me debug something where maybe I don't understand this particular part of the code, but they do, and they want to examine some things and look at them. And then, of course, over here in the VM, we'd have exactly that same experience of just hovering over something and being able to look at it. But again, not everything makes it over the wire, so some of these items in here, it doesn't want to play with. I'm hoping that part will get a little bit better debugging experience there. But we do have the locals, and I can open up Builder and look down into environment. So it's like I was the host. So there are options. We'll get into those a little bit later to configure what your collaborators can and can't do. You could take debugging permission away from them, and we'll see that near the end. But for now, let's run over here, go back to my normal Visual Studio, and I'm just going to let this run out. here is our out-of-the-box, plain, nothing in it, Razor demo site. So you were asking about, can people be working on different things at the same time?
Now I have another question. Will there be one person? Will they have a browser open up like that? And they see?
Also have a slide for that in a minute.
All right, keep going, man.
We'll get there. They're good questions. All right, so we're running here, and maybe this developer over here is a normal .NET developer. They just live in code, but they're not so good with CSS and web things, right? So maybe one of the collaborators, let's use the other VS or Visual Studio. So this person over here happens to be really good at things like CSS. Now I'm going to, let's put that one over to the, not on that machine, sorry. Here, tell you what, I'll do it with the VS Code instead. Because I can put that to the right, put my Visual Studio to the left. And let's say that this person I'm working with is a web front-end person, and I'm asking them for some help on styling or something on the site. So let's get that window back up, and I'm going to put that over to the left, actually. So remember, this is being run by the host version of Visual Studio, but my collaborator here is coming in and saying they don't really like this color, they would rather this would be cadet blue. And when they save that, there'll be a little delay and the page updated. So it really is the same as if you were editing it yourself. Because if I went to Visual Studio and did that same thing, you would see it reflected in the page. Now, that doesn't extend to things like so for Razor pages because it's all compiled. Like I could go in here to the index page. Let's collapse that again. And let's say I wanted to put, I'm really excited about it, so I'm going to put an exclamation point on there. And I save the file, like nothing's going to happen over here. And it's never going to, I'd have to restart it. That's just how Razor pages are. I'll need to recompile it before that kind of change would show up. So that it demonstrates that the files really do live on the host computer. I could have made that same change from the one that was in the VM, and maybe it would have been a little more impactful, but it's a little harder to get that to fit on the screen at once, so we'll just go with this.
So maybe another person
Oh, well, we could try it. I mean, I can do it. It's a little harder to get this to be split screen is the problem. If I go down here to Site CSS, and let's say we want to make this yellow, that's going to be hard on the eyes. When we save that, it should do the same thing. Right. So this is a completely different machine.
CSS,
right. That's just because.
That works only for the host.
No, that's the thing. It won't work for the host either. I'm just saying, like, I'm going to make this big again. You have to rebuild before those kind of changes happen because Razor pages get compiled. So I haven't gotten it to do it, but I don't do nearly as much front-end stuff. So if anybody here can tell me how to make that happen live, that would be a cool demo.
I just see.
Yeah, let's find out. Yeah, I don't live in the front end that much. I'm kind of a back end programmer, but you can see that the exclamation point did show up over here in the host's editor. That's there. So let's see if I put this over and let's get that browser back up. And we've decided that that is hideous and we don't like it at all. Well, let's do this first. So we have the exclamation point's been added to this. And yours, oh, I can't see all of the toolbar. All right. You're saying to hot reload?
I understand it saved.
Oh, it's been saved already.
Oh.
So let's hot reload and then go back to here. Hey, look, we have an exclamation point. Yay. So yeah, you can do it if you do the hot reload. Yeah, I'm not in Razor pages that much, sorry. It's not my normal hangout. But again, yeah, it shows you that it's really the files that are on the host's computer that count. there is some caching going on. So down here on the VM, not every file is already here. There might be a little traffic when I go to load something like this because it didn't have it already, but it did have the project structure. All right, so now we're going to get to your next question. It's about the sharing servers. So the host and one of the collaborators, because I closed the web one, they're really just windows on the same computer. So I can see the change to the background color easily enough. What about people who really are on different computers? So we'll go back over here to the VM. And I don't have enough time to really do this justice, but let's pull the website up here. So this is running on port 7185. That's not going to mean anything to this VM over here. If I try and go to, 7185. It's going to say I have no idea what you're talking about because when you're running things locally, they don't get shared off the computer. So even if you have two computers on the same network, I can't go to your IP address 7185 and see the site. But what I can do is in the host's computer, we go to manage shared servers. And I want to share 7185. Numlock, 7185. And so I'm now sharing that port. I may have to restart this. Let me see. I may not. Yay, there it is. So from the VM or from somebody else's machine, they could now see the same page that I'm looking at. It's not exactly the same page because while we were following each other around in the code, that does not carry over to oh, I can't see both of those at once, can I? Here, I'll go to the privacy page on this one, and then we'll pull the other browser up. Like, the browsers aren't going to follow each other. I guess it'd be cool if they did that, but I don't know, maybe there's just not enough lift there for everybody. But our collaborator over here could be exploring around the site and poking things and reporting back, and I could be over here, poking on different things and exploring. Now there's a little easier way to get to that too, which I want to show you because there's a gotcha, and I can't believe they haven't fixed this yet. Oh, actually, here, we'll just go to the live share window, not the chat, but this tells you information about the sharing session, who's on it, what all's going on, and you can see that there's a shared server here. And I can even right-click on that, and it says open server in browser. It's not going to work because for some reason they left that off of it, and they've still left that off of it. It's been a year. I know they know it's there, but they seem to have no interest in fixing that. Like I said, open in browser. I don't know if there's some technical reason they could explain or what, but that'll get you. The first time you're trying this, you want to share it, and somebody's like, "It's not working. Oh, this sucks." Like, remember, you got to put the HTTPS on there yourself. I've gotten used to that one by now. Go on.
Is the kernel is public? Could someone else fix that?
Oh, I don't know if that's in their open source repos or not. Live share. Yeah. It could be, but we are talking about Visual Studio in some cases, and I seriously doubt they've open sourced that, have they? They haven't, right? Yeah, they've done languages and libraries. How much of VS Code is open source? Right. The extension might be, actually. I probably looked into this when I was recording it, but that's a while ago. So not fresh in my mind, but maybe we can look that up in a little while. Right. So yes, you can share that. Remember to put the HTTPS in. And then there's one other bit here. Not only can we share servers, we can share terminals, which could be a little dangerous. You are giving someone control over your computer. But you would be if you were handing them the keyboard and the mouse too, so it's more or less the same deal. You can see right now we have no shared terminals. What was that?
right there beside you where you can slid it.
Right. Well, you can see what they're doing now.
Yeah.
As long as you keep an eye out.
The local share that you just did, it seems like cybersecurity people in my company.
Well, you have to know that the people that you're working with, they are collaborators. They're not, you don't go sharing servers out to random people on the internet. That'll get you fired. But theoretically, this should be one of your coworkers. Somebody.
It works if you're both on the same
Yeah, but there's actually, again, we'll get to that in a minute. So when we want to share terminals, there's actually a safer way to do that. If you just want somebody to see what you're doing, or you want to ask them for some help with something, I could share a read-only terminal. I'll do that first. Oh, that's lovely. Why are you like that? That's terrible. I can't even stretch that. Hey, there we go. All right, so here I am at a terminal. I'm sorry, my fonts aren't installed on here for PoshGet, so it looks terrible. But yeah, just normal terminal. Do anything I want to from there. Normally, print working directory. Wow, that is all kinds of not right. Let me try and close that and do another one. Maybe it'll work better. Okay, it doesn't like 1080p, I guess. It worked at home. But let's see here. Print working directory. I can see where I am, where the demo lives. We pop over here to VS Code. I'll make this bigger. The same thing. This terminal showed up here, and you'll notice it's called, well, because I closed one already. This is now PowerShell number 2 shared. But if I go in here, I can't type anything, and it's going to yell at me if I try. This is another one of the little gotchas that never seems to work for me. Say, request read-write access. I expect something to pop up over here in Visual Studio, but it never does. So maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. Or it's just a bug. Like I say, they're working on it. It's under active development. I wonder if I made this, no, not that full screen. We'll just staple it back to the bottom. It does look like it's a little bit better now, though. No, it's not. I don't think it likes this resolution. So let's close. Actually, nope, I could even open multiple terminals. I'm going to open a read-write terminal now. And that one looked a little bit better. So maybe I'm working on something that requires the command line that I'm not very good at. I could share this command line or command with somebody else. So the example that I used in the recording was the host has a file that's named wrong, like the casing on it is wrong, which Windows doesn't even perceive as a problem. But if you try and rename the file in Windows, Git won't pick up on it because Windows isn't case sensitive and it doesn't think anything changed. So you need to do a Git move directly from the command line so that Git knows you renamed it. Only the host doesn't know how to do that, and he asks for help. And the collaborator over here, you can see we're now on the PowerShell number 3, and I can type now. I could do anything I want. Yes, I could delete your hard drive, but probably asking for help with things that I don't understand about Git. And my collaborator is going to help me out because they're a Git ninja. And I can see what they did over here. I can see that they did a Git status. We don't need to rename something right now. You get the idea. I've given them control over a terminal, and it's a full terminal, and they've got full control. So be careful who you give that to. If you're just wanting to show people things, give them a read-only terminal. But here's the cool part, is that when I'm done with this, and I close this window, if I pop back over here to VS Code, that thing's gone. It just disappeared. It's not there anymore. The second one I did that was a read-only is still there. Let me, let's get this so we can see both at the same time. And when I closed this one, that terminal over there went away too. Like, just yanked it away. They don't have it anymore. They're cut off. So you do have a little, you got some security there. They can only do things while you're letting them. All right. So our developers, let's say they all split up. They've all been off working on different things. And someone's been working on the CSS, and someone else has been working on the page contents, and someone else is working on the entity framework model or whatever. And there's a bunch of us working on this project together. But I really want everybody to come and look at something at the same time. I can try and tell everybody the path of where that is. Or let's see, our person over here, let's close that down so we can see they're looking at index HTML, and maybe I'm looking at program CS again, and I really want everybody to come look at what I'm doing. Let's see what's going on. Let's close that browser. And down here they were looking at site.js. So yeah, everybody's looking at different things. Me as the host, we go up to the sharing window. There's this focus participants. I click on that and it's going to yank everybody to where I am. So all three windows are now looking at the same thing. So it's a bit of a time saver when you're like, hey everybody, come look at this. Right. Stop playing with the CSS and get over here. Now, yes, I know. If instead somebody was looking at the settings over here and they really wanted everybody else to come look at what they're doing, they've got that button too, and now everybody's looking at that file. Everybody's looking at app settings. So that's, yeah, everybody could wander off, but if you hit the button. Well, every time you hit the button.
Yeah, so they can try to go back to
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's you're working together. You're talking to one another.
If they want to be annoying, they do it right while they know you're not.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the settings on that too. So yeah, there's a bunch of settings we'll cover at the end where you can say what people can and can't do, or what you'll do automatically versus what it'll prompt you for. So I could stop them from doing that. Let's see. So let's talk about some use cases for this. Code reviews. This is pretty good for that. Instead of pushing it all the way up to GitHub and having somebody do something and leave comments for it, and then you have to address the comments, and then you have to come back and look at them. If your coworkers are free at the moment, they could just join you in one of these sessions and you could walk them through what it is you've been doing. Because I could just pull up my Visual Studio. Where'd my Git window go? Accidentally closed it. There we go. What? There's definitely a Git repo there. All right. Well, but I could go through, if I had changes outstanding, I could just walk everybody through what the changes are on one screen together. I could talk them through it. They could give me pointers or feedback on it.
Is that file that's focused outside?
It should not have been, not that one.
Sorry. Yeah. It's a little caution sign.
Where? Oh, the host?
Triangle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just code analysis. That's ReSharper. That's really weird that it lost track that this is a Git repo. It was a Git repo last night, I swear. But you get the idea. I could go through the list of things, focusing them, having them follow me. Oh, that's here. Let's show you one other thing here. Let me put this to the left. VS Code to the right. When somebody is following me, if they stay hands off and I move to different files, they'll follow me. So I don't have to keep focusing them over and over again. Now, once they start, messing with something, and I go off to some other file, oh, great, it followed me. Made a liar out of me. Let's go to, let's pull up. Let's say they started editing something, and then I go somewhere else. This could be something that has changed. Yeah, they followed me. It didn't do that before. Or maybe I've just done something wrong this time around. So, but, yeah, that's strange, because it didn't do that before.
It said following at the top.
Yeah, but I thought once I ran off and did something else, it may be possible that I have to somehow turn that off now. They may have changed the behavior. There may be something I need to do. Let's see what we can find here in the live share window. I could manually unfollow. Hey, it was more automatic before. That could be a setting, and they've changed it. As I say, it's under active development. They change it on me now and then. All right. Show and tells also, that's a good one. So I'm not looking for code review, but I just want to walk everybody through what the latest change was and show them, and they could all look at the site and we can all agree it's great. So then another good use case for this is whiteboarding, but you have to figure out how to do it. There's a few different things. There's that live share whiteboard. I showed you that earlier. It hasn't been updated in 3 years. I think it's dead. You could use plant UML, but you have to be running a server for that to work, like it runs in Node or something. Or there's Mermaid. Is anybody using Mermaid? You are? Okay. Cool. Mermaid's great because it's just Markdown. Yeah, there's nothing magic about it. It's just Markdown and an editor that knows what to do with it. Unfortunately, Visual Studio has no idea what to do with it. So I have a README here. It's got a bunch of Mermaid diagrams in it. And this Markdown preview that they put in Visual Studio just has no idea what any of that means. And it doesn't display it well at all. There are a few, there's a Markdown, or there's a Mermaid extension you can get for Visual Studio. But for some reason, it wants to consume whole files that are Mermaid, so they have to have a different extension. You can't just drop things into the middle of a document. Mads had a Markdown preview. I believe the last time I looked at that, it didn't know what to do with Mermaid either. So if you really want to play with Mermaid, you need to be in VS Code and look for the Markdown preview support. And this works great. So if I go to the files and I open up README, then I do a preview, I'll have diagrams. So yeah, you can just write sequence diagrams in here. I can make a class diagram if I decided, let's see, class 1. And these are just taken straight off the Mermaid website. I just copy pasted them directly in here. So class 01, let's say I want to add a new string name, and it just shows up on the diagram. And this might get a little crowded, but I'm going to small to see. If I were in Visual Studio, I would still be able, it's just text, so I see that, that new property that I added. And it'll be this tiny little line right here. If I went into this one and I just deleted it, it's going to catch on and redraw the diagram. So you can whiteboard live, as long as you can open VS Code to do it. So if you haven't seen it before, yeah, there's different syntax for doing, what do we have here? We got a sequence diagram, a class diagram. You don't have a lot of control in Mermaid over the layout. You're going to just tell it about the relationships, and it's going to throw it on the page however you want. You know, maybe this isn't the best thing for printed documentation that you want to hand somebody, or you just live with the fact that you have no control over the layout. Flowchart, I could come down here and add some new piece to this, and it's a lot of these arrow syntaxes that mean different things. I believe, I'm not going to try it live, but I could put comments next to these. I could also rename them. I'm not going to remember that off the top of my head, unfortunately, but I could use the blocks. I could just call the blocks A and B and C and whatever, but give them a name, and then over here on the diagram the name would show up, but when I'm drawing arrows between them I can still just call them A, B, and C, so that the Markdown doesn't get huge. So we got a Gantt chart, ER diagram, user journey. That's a fun one. You can't see these probably very well. They're little happy faces and sad faces of their day. Going to work, they started off happy. They got sadder and sadder, but then they went home and they're happy again. And state diagram. I think that's the last one on here. Yeah. So mermaid's great if you need to whiteboard with somebody and they're in a different state, or you just can't be near each other. It's a great way to hash some of these out pretty quickly. So, getting there. Oh, I already said whiteboarding. Slides are in the wrong order. All right, so we'll talk now about some of the security stuff. You were mentioning a VPN before. Yeah, a VPN would work. It might slow things down a little bit and could be unnecessary. The traffic from the host to the collaborators is SSH end to end. And every time you start a new session, it generates new keys. So that link that I gave you yesterday is not going to get you into my session today. So yeah, when I end the session, it's over. You're never getting back in until I invite you again. Fresh every time. If you are on a local network with somebody, or if you're VPN'd in together, all the traffic will stay local to that network. They'll negotiate and just talk amongst themselves. You have control over that too. We'll get to that when we get to the settings. If you were not on the same network, so you're at your house, I'm at my house, there's a cloud relay that's hosted by Microsoft. So it's living up in Azure somewhere, all the traffic's routing through that, but remember, it's still SSH end to end, but also all of the traffic between each of the collaborators and the cloud is additionally secured with TLS, so that's the same security running HTTPS. So nobody's going to eavesdrop on what you're doing. So be pretty secure about that. We'll talk about file security here, and I've got a demo for that. I'm going to need both of these up. Over here, and I'm going to close that. Let me open this up so I can close everything. Make some more room here. All right, so we have our file list. Let's go back over to the right. Expand this for a minute. Oh, no. No. Up here at the solution level, there's a VSLS, or Visual Studio Live Share. There's a JSON file which you can use to configure some things. This is the part that probably isn't going to work the way that it should. Last time I ran this, it didn't. If I decided that I want to hide readme.md, let's get the casing right. I could add that to hide files. And when I go back over here to VS Code, it should have disappeared out of the list. And it did. I don't see README anymore. I'll collapse some of these things. So yeah, README's not there. I'll stick this over to the right so we can...
You have to save.
Yeah, you just have to save. If I take that out of there and I'll save the file again, you'll see README showed back up for the collaborators. They can see it now. Now, the thing that used to work and didn't the last time I ran this is when I've hidden a file. What was that?
Did you see this file?
Oh. When I've hidden a file, it used to be that I could still. Oh, good, it's working again today. All right, so the latest update fixed it. My collaborator over here can't go find the file themselves. But if they're following me, I could take them to the file, and they would be able to see the README, which isn't normally in their list. Which is, what was that? Yes, I suppose they could. Let's find out. Yes. Because I brought them there, it's the same as any other file. They just couldn't wander there on their own. So you could put some sort of files in there just to clean some things up. And actually, I'm already doing that. There's this line up here. It says get, ignore, hide. So right now, anything that's already hidden by the get ignore, so that would be, let's see, what is in the get ignore? Let's find out. Oh, I don't have it exposed here. Well, what we'll do is I will, let's set that to none, hit save, and a bunch more files just showed up over here. So like the obj folder, the bin folder, all these sorts of things that, I'm get ignoring them. I can tell through the VSLS file, I can say what to do with those, and hide is your default option, which is just, I could take them there, but just declutter the interface a little bit. That's different than exclude. Let's see if exclude works today. Exclude is, and I probably have to close this file because it's already open. So I moved README from hide up to exclude, and I've saved the file, and my collaborator should still be following. Well, okay, so here, because I unfollowed a little while ago. If I focus, they go there. Now if I open README and I focus them, they won't. So even if I say follow me there, they won't. So I'm glad to see that's working again. It was not last night. So they've fixed the bug. But you could also
Even if you're in there, so they can't even watch you changing.
Right, if I put it in exclude, that's what you're saying. This is something I don't want other people to see.
So it's not like a screen share.
No. No, it's not a screen share. They're not getting pixels, they're getting files and being told to follow. And a good excuse for that would be, so if we look under app settings, right, secrets files. So I don't want collaborators seeing the secrets files. I can put a blob for secrets in the VSLS JSON, which I'm probably going to get blob syntax wrong here. What do those look like? So .secrets.json. What do we have? Like two stars, or just? I don't know if I have this right. I may not. I'm terrible at blobs. Okay, yeah, there we go. Or they might be hidden because they're get ignored. Let me go over here and we'll open up one of the secrets files and then tell the collaborator to follow me. We'll go back over to VS Code. And they are not, right? So they didn't follow me there. They won't follow me to the secrets files. So yeah, you can lock stuff down because you don't really want people digging into your passwords, even if you like them a lot. So our settings in here for get ignore, we could say, well, none is don't do anything, all the files showed up, or I could hide them, or I could exclude them. Exclude might be a little extreme for everything that's in get ignore. But yeah, you got some more control, put some blobs in here, and control what people can see. So there's our security, the main security concerns, I think, unless you can think of any others. But we'll look at the settings last here, and I'll just pop this all the way open. Tools, options, and there's a heading here for live share. We'll just go from the top to bottom. Do I want the chat window to auto open every time I start a session? Maybe, but if you're using other things, if you're using Slack or Zoom or whatever else to talk, then you can just turn that off. You can still get to it manually. This is more about debugging the extension itself. There are preview features, or what they're calling insiders features, and some of the things that are in here now in stable used to be insider features. I think for a while there, the voice chat was an insider feature, but it's dead now. This is also defaulted to true, which is weird. They had a limit of five collaborators for a while, and if you set this to true, you get 30. I've never tried to get that many people in a session at once, but maybe if you were doing a code presentation to a bunch of people that were scattered around. That might be a good one. Let's see, open shared servers. I guess this would be if I was joining a session. Would I want to automatically open when somebody else runs the site? Would I want a browser to automatically open? Let's see, let's find some interesting ones. So here we go. When I joined from the web browser anonymously, remember I had to go back to Visual Studio and I had to approve that person joining. If I knew that I was going to be doing a large presentation and that was going to be, maybe I was planning to share a read-only link anyway, but I'm presenting to the whole company, maybe I'd want to turn that off and just say, just let them in. Required guest approval. Do I have to say yes or no? So who am I when I'm sharing? Here's where the debugging stuff is. So I could turn off, this really has to do with can they start and stop debugging, not can they hit F10 and go forward a line. I guess I didn't show that earlier, but if I went to the VM right now, probably yell, oh, it didn't yell at me. Nice. It's catching up. Hey, maybe I found a current bug. I may have found a current bug. Yeah, guests should not be allowed to control debugging right now, but my collaborator just started debugging. Oops.
Is that false already?
Yeah, I haven't changed any of the settings. These are all at their defaults, even the ones that are bold. Share web app on debug. That one, that should be automatically sharing the server. I should not have had to type 7185 to share the port manually. At least that's the way I interpret it. You know, because this is, do you want to automatically share the port of your project's running web app? And okay, so yeah, there are things that come and go, whether they're working or not. Sometimes they do, and then they break it in another one. Active development, as I said. But again, the main, we're editing code together and debugging together, that stuff's pretty solid. Oh, here you go. Focus behavior, I could say prompt. And then when the host had said focus everybody, well, if I were on one of the other ones, if I were on the VM and I set this to prompt, when the host said focus, it would have just asked, do I want to go instead? This flag visibility, I can show you what it's talking about there in just a minute. Connection mode, this is that, is it a direct or through that cloud relay? I could take direct control of that and say, no, I only want to allow things that are direct, or I know we have some weird network problem between me and some other department. Just go through the cloud relay all the time. Don't try and figure it out yourself. Share external files. I believe I could open a file that's not directly under the project and still be able to share it with the other collaborators. Like, hey, I have this document here, and show it to them. I haven't tried that one in a while. Oh, command control. So this would be for quick fixes. Don't think this is going to extend to like ReSharper, but for the Visual Studio quick fixes, the control period things, it's, am I going to let collaborators use those too? Which could be cool. Shared build. And then, yeah, just extra parameters to pass to the terminal. If we go over here to VS Code, pull up its settings, extensions, it'll be all the same settings, it's just in that big, long, doom scrolling format that VS Code loves so much. But all the same settings should be here. Now, the two extensions are different because one is for VS Code and one is for Visual Studio. They may not always release at exactly the same time, so sometimes I'll have a feature that I could use between two full Visual Studios, but VS Code doesn't have it yet. There have been some features that got added to VS Code before catching up in real Visual Studio, but they are independent. I mean, I'm assuming they're the same team. They just have slightly different release schedules for whatever reason. So that's that. And then let's show, do I still have this one running? I do. Let's bring up this code. And when we're all done for the day, I'm going to go in here as the host and end the session. All the stuff is going to, well, I didn't want you to, okay. Host has ended the session. All folders and editors will now close. And it's all gone. Now, if you were really industrious and went digging around on the hard drive, you might be able to find the evidence of the cache, but it's supposed to clean up after itself. I went looking for them while it was running and found them in some really obscure folder, but I believe when I ended the session, it deleted them all. So you didn't leave your stuff behind on a collaborator. I would want to verify that again before trusting it, because that could be one of those things that stops working. But just like closing the terminals just made them go away, ending the session just takes it all away. And if I pop down to that VM, I should have the same thing. Yeah, the session ended, all your stuff's gone. So I'm back to being just me. And that's about it. Anybody's got any lingering questions? Yeah?
Two things. One addition to visual studio support in addition to hosts.
These are community, yeah. Yeah. If you're into working in VS Code, it was from that same menu over here on the left. So this is the live share icon. I can start a session from here, and work on Python together or whatever. It doesn't have to be .NET code. But yep, start one from there and join it from Visual Studio. All that good stuff. Oh, the joining a session? Okay, look for it there. I don't see it, probably because, what's that? Oh, I thought one of you saw it, maybe. There probably is a, no, not that. That is, nah, no, different kind of sharing. But I mean, it's pretty easy to find the icon. It goes over here. And then, yeah, there's no separate settings for that. It's all just under the big settings thing. What's that? Oh, that is. Gotcha.
Oh, that DSLS JSON file, is that created the first time you start a live share project?
And I believe I added that. It's got some default settings, and if you want to take control over them, I think you add one of those. We could find out if I just created a new project, I suppose. I don't think it would be there. I think I had to create that. But if you look at like the site for the page about Visual Studio Live Share, it'll have what the format is. And you could leave a lot of the stuff out of here. I think the only thing that you really have to have is the schema. And like I could have nothing but the hide files section in there. I think I don't know if there's, you would just have the default options of everybody seeing everything. Yeah. It makes it a little nicer if you put the get, ignore, hide in there, just so that everybody's not seeing the bin and obj folders and a bunch of stuff they don't care about. It's just clutter. But, right. Yeah. Yeah, I would always want to add those in there. Let's see, is there... Oh, this is that new thing. Show me all the templates. I don't know if there's a... Yeah, there's no template for it. I think I just pulled their default version off of the web page for it and saved it in there and never looked back. All right, anybody else? At a time? I had three at a time, mostly when we were test driving it. There's one main guy that I work directly with, and yeah, we've used it a couple of times, but usually they're like, the questions that we'll have usually they're not the sort of thing that would have resulted in us doing a pairing session when we were in the office, but if you like the whole pair programming model, here's your tool for doing that remotely. We just weren't doing pair programming on this project. But yeah, I've definitely, when debugging through something and it's just not acting right, I have fired this up, pulled them on, they're like, okay, just walk through this with me and tell me whether I'm crazy, because this says 2 and that says 3. And, you know, he can look around at the same time and see what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Can you restrict clipboard access for the followers, collaborators?
I don't think they're sharing your clipboard in the first place.
What I mean is, if they're in a file,
Yeah, I don't think you could stop that. Yeah, I think it would be hard to work if you couldn't use the clipboard. So, not that I know of. Like, you'd have to stop them from pasting outside the app they're in. I don't know if you've got that kind of control over the clipboard in Windows. Like, you can only use it here. Yes?
Probably, you're sending them this secure link, you've got to see it anyways.
Right.
But is there in this JSON file a way to just reuse it or anything?
Not that I know of, no. This is just about the files. I think the options that are in this file are actually really, like, we might be looking at all of them. Here, let's find out here. So look for mentions of that. Oh, that's security live share. I believe those are all the options we have. Where? Oh yeah, you could kick somebody out. That's up to your settings. I think out of the box, it wants me to approve anonymous people. It may have asked me the first time I've ever seen a new person if I want to let them in, but like that time it didn't ask me because it's seen that other collaborator before. Yeah, requiring guest approval. Right. I guess you'd want to run to the options really quick and say approve or reject. Reject is an option too. Like, you know, everybody who's in here is all I want. Don't even bother asking me. Yeah, we got the schema, we got the get, ignore, exclude, and hide, and I don't see them saying any other options. No, I believe that's all you've got. Yeah, just don't send the link to somebody you don't know. Don't post it publicly. Anything else?
So if somebody's sharing on Visual Studio code, like they're like coding, say, it's moving, but then like people who are utilizing Visual Studio see like the movie code or that.
They should. I haven't tried it that direction. We could try. I'd have to make something up. Start some little project up in VS Code and see what happens. Let's just, well, I mean, it's VS Code, it shouldn't even care about what it's editing. I could just go find, let's just even pick a single file maybe. It ought to work. Let's see, I'm going to find, we'll grab something out of this same project. Say if I just had a single file, let's just pull that program CS over here. Yeah. So, what? No, not right now. So if we have some file up here and I said share, should get more or less the same thing. Yeah, an invitation link has been set, could make the session read-only, which I believe you could do after the fact too. You can lock a session down from inside Visual Studio. Let's not be debugging things here. In fact, we'll open a brand new Visual Studio. Drum roll. I have not tried it this direction before, but it should work. hope that's not something bad. Could be. You've just joined a collaboration session. Okay, where's the file? Let's see if we can do a focus here. Okay, it says that we joined. Maybe I need to have an actual project, and just opening our single random file is bad. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see what I can do. If I were to go all the way down into there, let's see. Here, first of all, let's end that session. If I were to open this with VS Code, oh, it's a I think I clicked the wrong open. Get back out here and we go to demo. I don't have it open with VS Code. We will find the answer. I'm going to try and open the actual solution file from over here. We'll see if it acts any differently. I don't often end solutions in Visual Studio, VS Code. All right. Wait a minute. Now that's Visual Studio. Maybe this one. Folder, I guess. So we're looking at the whole thing. We're the owner. Git repository. See, I told you there was a Git repo there. I probably moved something. All right, so we've got our link. We've got our empty Visual Studio. Join a live session. Hey, look, stuff. So, yeah, it goes back the other direction too. And I should be able to do the same sorts of things where if I open a particular file over here, it's following over there. So, yeah, works both ways. Anybody know how to turn this Markdown preview off in Visual Studio? No? It's probably a setting somewhere. It's terrible. That's actually, I thought that too. I clicked on that. It's more of just like the settings for the gutter, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's it, unless there are any other questions. Leave that up there. I could try it again. I don't know if it'll do anything different. Right. Well, I mean, it sure seems like it ought to work. We can give it another try here. I don't have to be anywhere. Let's see. Can I close folder? Yeah. Okay. So I guess normally in VS Code you would probably open a folder, I imagine. let's find my stuff. I'm going to pick something that's in a completely different folder, let's say, just for argument's sake. Let's go get something out of a different project of mine. Right. I don't have a SQL script handy, but here's just a sample like order file or order class from some other project. And let's then say, I'm going to share that. Yeah. So I've got my link. Over here it should be complaining that the host ended the session. Yes, they did. It's nothing different than I was doing last time. Oh, here you go. Wait, no, that's not it. It says that I've joined. Maybe it's just because I don't have a solution. Visual Studio is just confused by it, maybe. But still, I should be able to do focus participants and get something to happen over here. Yeah, I think Visual Studio just doesn't know what to do with that. Right. But when I tell it just to do a single file, I don't think it knows what to do with that exactly.
So, do you see the shared folder at the top?
Yeah, there's...
Is that what it's referring to?
I think maybe if I went to VS Code and opened... let's try opening a folder full of stuff. Well, I think that's... yeah, let's just open all the entities from this project over here. And then we'll do a share. Lost my mouse. Oh, I saw stuff. Yeah, look, stuff. So I think it just doesn't know what to do with a single file, maybe. It wants at least a folder's worth of stuff. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So once you go to the
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, there's something. I don't think this was there before. We got different participants and it telling you what file they're in the middle of looking at. I guess if you had that up there, you could be like, hey, what are you doing? Catch somebody digging around in things you didn't want them to see. Yes, you had a question. Well, you could join anonymously, like I did in that web browser. Yeah, I was on... Yeah, you would have to have some kind of identity, I would think. I haven't tried signing out of Visual Studio and trying it, but I guess if it's giving you a link, it would still work. But in the settings for Visual Studio, there was a spot to put in here of who are you. So yeah, I think you do need to be somebody doing a session or hosting one. Might be different from VS Code. Let's see, does that have an account? Oh, I was going to show the name tag visibility. You saw when I was moving around, it would put a little flag next to the name and say who it was. If that's irritating, you can put that to only show the flag when you hover over the thing. Because every time somebody moves, it pops the name up. I think we have to run through all of that. I don't actually see a spot here for the account. Well, I wanted to search just under the Visual Studio Live Share. I don't see one there, but yeah, when I've joined Visual Studio Live Share, when you follow the link that somebody gives you and you end up in the browser, or when you paste it into VS Code, it pops up and says, do you want to continue anonymously or log in? So maybe its behavior is just a little different. If I left that out on Visual Studio, I suppose maybe it would ask me there. Haven't actually tried blanking that out because, I mean, I'm always me, so why would I? Interesting experiment, though. I might play with that later and find out what it will prompt.